Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Live. We're in kind of looks like a space station in here right now. I'm trying to practice my rigging here for some watercolor situations. I completely forget how I set up my situation when I was doing my traditional last year. But here we are. We're going to try to practice a little bit of work here and there. See how this works. If it works nicely, great. If not, then we'll try something else next week. So how's everybody doing? Happy Monday, everybody. We are going to work in some watercolor today. So I am here working. We're going to do some gnomes today. So I'm going to give everybody a minute or two to come in while I get set up here. Just going to get myself sorted out. Okay. Where's everybody coming from today? Thank you for tuning in. I think Adobe's here. Thanks, Adobe. How's everybody doing? Okay. Oh my God, Kristen's here. Hello, Kristen. Oh, I got everything but a brush. I'm so silly. That's the one I want. I didn't get I knew I had to miss something. All right, so we are here. We're gonna do some watercolor. So I put out, everybody has seen, whether you follow my knitting account or my illustration account, the gnomes have taken over. I drew a couple gnomes last year and they have taken over. So everybody's here. I asked last week, I think I put up a post where I wanted some suggestions as to what people wanted to see as far as gnomes coming this year, both illustrated and knitted where I could accommodate. And so I have a few of those ideas coming this way. So we have ourselves, I can't quite see them right now, but we're going to get some color on here so that you can see. We have Alessandra today. Hello. She says, hey, traditional work. I'm here for it. I know I'm always so inspired by all the traditional work that you put on while you're doing your work as well. Hello, everybody on the live. All right. So we have 4 gnomes here. You won't be able to see them too much, but we're going to get some color on all these guys today. Just because I tend to get a little antsy with watercolor. I don't want to wait for it to dry. So we've got 4 guys that we're just going to rotate through tonight. As one's drying, I'm going to be working on the next one and moving through. I just have nothing super fancy. I got this watercolor set from I think the Tate Modern when I went to when I was there in England. It's definitely from an art museum anyway. But all these it's great for portability because all these little guys slot together. So they come into, figuring out how things work. And trying to get the gram at the same time. So they all slot together. So they come into one little package at the end, put the lid on, and we're good to go. Oh yeah, look, Tate Modern. There you go. And then the top is actually the palette, which you can see I've kept nice and clean. Look at me go. But I like this for on the go. I do have fancy Winsor Newton ones. I like this when I'm just kind of doing what we're doing today, kind of getting the feelers out, trying to figure out what colors might work, might not work. If I'm doing a bigger piece where I have kind of a bit more of a plan, I tend to I'll get my bigger, fancier ones out because I'm painting with more paint and bigger washes and all that kind of stuff. I don't need too much paint to cover the areas that we're working on here today. And then I just have a very basic watercolor brush from Desserts. It's a Winsor Newton brush and it's got a really great grippy on it. I really like this one. And then just some cold water and some paper towel and my sketches. This paper is basic Canson paper. You can see here or see here. Just basic that you can get. I think it works really well. Those of you who tuned into the live when I did the house painting in the fall, that was done on this same paper. I like to get really, I always love to go in and get a really fancy Archer paint and I paint paper, and I really like the grittiness of it. That's why we're painting today. These guys are gonna eventually get pretty digital. Now I've done a dumb thing. I'm gonna paint this guy, but he's not the. But he's gonna be. I'm gonna be all up in his way. Okay, we'll make sure Instagram can see here. Oh well, we'll figure it out. I already have the yellow done, and I don't want it to dry up. So the point here, like I said, I want to get the base, the watercolor down because I like the texture that a watercolor piece is going to give me. At least have that paper and that grittiness. So if you've seen my gnomes when I've been drawing them in, the ones that I drew in the fall, you've got the ones that are the Christmas one, the balloon one, the sunflower one, and the sweater weather one. They all started on a watercolor piece just because I love that texture that comes up at the bottom. And then they're just like with the house when I mentioned, I'm gonna try and make sure, okay, Instagram can see, yay. When I did the house, I mentioned that like it gets to a point where I want to, okay, I'm gonna try not to do that too much for Instagram, sorry. I'm still figuring out my setup here, guys. I get to a point where either I'm going to overwork it or I'm like, it might take too long to do the finer watercolor details. Or no, so there's usually like a point where I'm just kind of like, I want to kind of go into digital, reduce the risk a little bit. They're going to go digital, these guys anyway, because they are going to be printed for cards and for different other purposes. So I kind of take them in for the digital at the final stages. So these guys are going to get some watercolor and probably get some, ideally some pencil crayon. That would be really great. Here, I'm just going to move these up a little bit here so that you guys can see what's going on. Hi, Baskar. Is that how I pronounce it? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Lots of people. I love it. So eventually, like watercolor and pencil crayon will probably be where we go here, and then take it into the digital for those finer details, the line arts and everything, just kind of for the production part of it. I would like to finalize these prints and just make sure that kind of I have the final finished piece for myself or to sell later on. But the texture is really what I'd like to have here. And also the digital is kind of nice because if there's something that you're not really sure about, or you're not really like I don't think came out quite right, you can do those little adjustments in the digital, which past me might have considered a little bit of cheating, but it's better than starting over. It's still quality line art that we got going on. So we have 4 separate gnomes to work on today. As you can see, this guy's got a big, bright yellow raincoat on. He's our rainy day gnome. I drew him when it was rainy days here, and you're gonna see the gnome in a minute that I'm drawing with the stuff that's falling from the sky here today instead. We have much more. We've had many weather warnings and everything else lately. It's kind of a sloppy mess around here. I'm okay with it because I have the option to stay home if it's too chaotic for the most part. Okay. So for some of these bases, I'm just kind of using the flat color for right now over mixing too many colors. I just want to get some colors down and get a feel of what we're doing. And because I'm working in such a small space, I don't want to be using a pile of water. I'm not doing a big wash here. I'm just doing some space coverage, some color blocking really, and seeing what I think works. Like I already know from what we have laid down, these boots are going to have to go way darker. But just color blocking right now, getting some basics laid out. See if I'm missing any pieces, see what kind of color beard we want. I think we're going to go brown because I really want it to look like it's really soggy and wet. The poor thing, it's been out in the rain all day. But then we're going to get into mixing of colors because we're going to get into shadows. We're going to get into quite a, like, even though we're going digital, I'd like to get a lot of the base down here where we can. So these won't look super exciting just now, but as we rotate through the gnomes, we'll see how far we can get today. If you were here last week and you saw the bookmark that I was working on, I finished it. I had a minute there where I was trying to remember what I did last week. We finished it, and it is ready to be viewed. You can see it on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Not Behance just yet. Just like last week, I'm very behind on my Behance updates. I'm hoping to spend some of this weekend doing that. It's kind of been a little bit crazy. I also find at the end of the week I don't want to be on my computer. Mojo doesn't want me to be on my computer. No one wants to be on the computer. So those updates are harder to negotiate in my brain, but things that must happen, of course. So we will see what we have here. Try not to block the gram too much. What else? Once this dries up, that glare is going to go away. Everybody on Behance and Facebook and YouTube. Sorry, don't want to forget the YouTube. And I like just kind of like the natural colors as it kind of pools itself. Like that dark edge along the right here where my brush is, that's happening naturally. That's not a glare, a light on the other side. That's happening because I threw a bunch of color in there, but I like to see it naturally form. The watercolor on the iPad, like in Fresco, is pretty decent, but you know, not quite the same. Okay. Magic. Okay, so we're gonna let that big wash dry first. But it's showing the gram, that little soggy guy. Trying to figure out my rights and lefts. Okay, base wash number 1. And because I'm right-handed and drew the right gnome, we have to switch to the other page because I'm super silly and didn't think it through. We will come back to the daisy gnome. So we have 2 more gnomes here. We have our super snowy snowman gnome. We have our Valentine's Day gnome. Okay, here on Behance and everybody else. We got a Valentine's Day one and a buried in snow one because that's where we are. Hello from Brazil. Seeing artists work on the internet is inspiration to be working more. Yay! I do find these live streams extremely inspirational. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to watch some TV or something. Then I watch like Alessandra's live stream and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go paint something. Okay, now let me think. So I think we're gonna be mixing some colors here for sure. From Brazil. Thank you, Eduardo. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Okay, so let me see. So I'm definitely gonna obviously have some reds here, but I'm feeling like kind of like purpley though. Okay, so let me get my mixer here. Let's move my brush over here. See, and because I have the plan to eventually go digital, the pressure's a little bit off for me to pick the right colors. If I kind of get a little bit off, I'm not sure, then that's perfection. If I get a little bit off or I'm not sure about a color, then I don't have to really stress it out too much because we can do some hue saturation sheets in Fresco or Photoshop or whatever. So just a bit of dark red and a bit of blue here. I'm not pooling a lot of water. or a lot of paint right now. Just again, I'm trying to just block out some of that color, see what's working and what isn't, because it's easier to throw down kind of a different color over top of a wash rather than, let me see if I can do something more better for the gram here, because we're kind of, there we go. They'll be able to see a little bit better there. They'll be upside down, but they'll be able to see better than just my fat hand in the way. I just want that wash of color to see what's going on. And when I was doing the balloon gnome, I kind of liked that the color kind of altered just a little bit. Like I want these to be a little bit imperfect. So I'm kind of just leaning into that as well. They're kind of like my anti-perfectionism activity. So see, like you can see maybe like this one's a little darker and a little purplier than the other one, but has a little bit more blue in it. But that's okay. And these lines don't have to be perfect either. I can always go in with a pencil crayon and get some of the like pom-poms and stuff painted in later. And that can also be a digital thing. Like I think the umbrella for the water, the rainy day gnome, he's gonna have a little bit more of a digital approach to that, I think. So a couple other elements just to round out the look, that kind of hodgepodgey look. And then I can water some of this down by just adding water. So this past week I wrote a ton of blog posts, so they're all coming your way. There we go. Alessandra says good evening. It's snowing in Ontario today. Yes it is. There's much snow in Ontario today. It took me, my drive is usually about 20 minutes. It definitely took me an hour to get home tonight. Not living for that. Not my favorite process. But everybody's taking it slow. So really, it's really hard to argue with that because people were taking their time. I wasn't late because there was accidents and people were being stupid. People were respecting the conditions. So I can't really, that's not always the case. But yeah, it's kind of miserable. It's supposed to be miserable tomorrow. So we'll see what tomorrow's travel plans, or hopefully lack thereof, look like. Oh, this is so relaxing. I love this. All right. So to keep things a little consistent here, what I'm going to try and do is, just so they're not kind of bouncing back and forth, this is kind of like me using those colors and stuff. Kind of using the colors of, sorry, that was an incomplete thought. Using the colors from the paper patterns in the iPad and everything, like on the iPad art. I want to kind of create a consistency here. So I'm going to use like the blue, like adds a little bit more red to the blue that we had. So it's like kind of like a little bit more of a reddish version of what's going on. And then we're going to add some water here because that's going to be our heart. Baskar asked, how many years does it take to learn this art? I've been doing all of this for a very, very long time. I've been drawing and sketching forever. Since I've been a kid. I was a kid. And then there is, I have like watercolor in high school. I learned some watercolor there. I can't remember when I first learned watercolor. And then I went to college for this as well. So it depends on how long you want to focus on one thing. Like the way my art schooling worked was I had many different things I was learning at one time. So illustration, different kinds of painting, watercolor, acrylic, Learning chalk, pastel. So when I was in college, I was learning a lot. Oh, you okay, bud? You almost fell off. Are you okay? Are you okay? Do you want your brains? So I was learning a variety of different things at the same time. So doing that definitely slows the process down just a little bit. But if you were focusing on only watercolor, it depends on what degree, level of practice and stuff you're doing, and how much you want to put into it. That's really almost up to you and how much you want to do. Like, this is pretty, I'm not getting into like washes and things like I mentioned earlier in this, and that takes a lot of practice. I'm using this watercolor relatively dry, so that's a different technique. But really, it depends on how much you want to put into it. Like I said, I've been an artist my whole life, and practicing for many, many years. So it takes some time. But everybody learns at a different pace, and everybody takes to different things at a different pace. Like me for sculpture, my brain just doesn't work that way. So it would take me a lot longer to learn it. Whereas building up in paint and drawing and kind of manipulating a paint, that is more how my brain works. So I would probably catch on to this. Maybe I've never done oils, but I would anticipate I might catch on to that a little bit faster than I would like sculpture or something. So it's taken me many years to learn this, learn all the rules, and then find out how to break them, because that's kind of what I'm doing here. And then go where the interest is. And then this is going to end up being very mixed media in the end. And those decisions are just coming from my interests and where, like if I want a certain effect, what I know will get me that effect kind of thing. So that's a lot of learning. Like that, to me, I find learning how to do mixed media and those different kinds of skills. It depends on how much you've taught yourself or how much you've learned. But that's kind of where I see the most growth in my art, is when I think of something like, oh, I can use this for that. Like even I was talking a few weeks ago about the paper patterns that I use to colorize my digital art. I don't remember when I thought, I'll use those for coloring or big chunks of color. But I'm glad I thought of it when I did, and it's added a whole other level to my pieces. But having done digital art and paper art and all that different kinds of things, it opened that door for my brain to dive into that. So a bit of time, but like I said, everybody's different. So, but there's lots of things. Like if you want to learn watercolor specifically, there's so many courses you can take. I don't know what your area is like, but around here there's lots of like watercolor classes you can take at local art stores, or you can take it at different colleges, universities will do like night classes and things. All those things can be available for people. Every area is obviously different, but if you take a quick look, even online, there'll be so many things online. Oh, that's not as saturated as I hoped it would be. That's okay. So for what I'm doing here, like I said, I'm not throwing a lot of water on this for a few reasons. One, I want it to dry so I can go on to the next stage because I'm impatient. But two, I'm putting a lot of color right next to one another, or in this case, like right overlapping. And if you use a lot of water, that can cause the colors to bleed together. And I don't really want to do that right now. Like I said, color blocking is the focus. So I don't really want to get too messy. Hello, Manjo. Stop licking your feet, please. So I don't want it to get too messy right now. I don't want that level of cleanup at the digital points here. So I just want some colors down here. So let's see if we can... That pencil's a lot lighter than I anticipated. Oh, I had it for a second. I'm not good at this. There we go. there's start of our Valentine's Day gnome. Instagram is all set there. Check it. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, so we are going to do the snowy day gnome because that is what today is, a very snowy day. So definitely some blue and yeah, let's use some of this. So I don't want it to be blue because I think we're probably going to put a blue wash in the snow at some point. So I just want to tone down the brightness of the blue. So I'm just going to use some of our purple that we just had. Because I like to use up my paint. I'm very weird about that. In that, like, I won't, like, if I'm using acrylic, I was doing a few canvases a couple years ago, and if I'm at the end of an acrylic, I will either, like in the case of my fish, if you saw those live streams, the fish, I would paint until I was out of paint, and then I would move on to the next thing, go have dinner, go do something else. But if I'm doing something like this, where there's like a point where I'm going to be done putting color down, I'll get very, like, I'll either paint something else or whatever. I just want to use up all the paint. I think that's still the student mentality with my art supplies. I just don't want to waste any of them. Even when I was doing the canvases, sorry, I deviated from that story. When I was doing the canvases a couple years ago, I had an extra little canvas on the side where if I had paint left over that I couldn't use on the canvas without wrecking the art. Hi, bud. Thank you. I put the paint on that canvas and used it as like a collage piece. Just kind of another mixed media piece of art that we could do. I don't like to waste the paints. So those of you on Instagram are getting a nice close-up view here. But like I said, just putting it down nice and pretty thick. Not your typical watercolor instruction. Like some watercolor artists will have you wash the whole paper with water first before you put anything down. So there's definitely different approaches. I just like the level of color I can get out of this and get that texture right out of the paper almost right away without having to work it up too much. I also like to get a good solid set of color on the page right away because I tend to, if you haven't noticed, be impatient with watercolor like this. I found some tricks and stuff to help me out with that. But like in high school, my art teacher would just take the brush out of my hand because I wanted to keep painting, but ended up like mooshing all my paper and wrecking it because you just keep working it, and the paper's wet, so it's starting to peel, and it's just, and we were using like high school art supplies, and so not that they were bad art supplies, but you know, they're buying a lot of them, so they're not as big Archer paper, so it can't handle that water as much, and so you're wrecking it. So that's why I'm doing 4 different gnomes tonight. We're not going to finish them all, but we're going to get good coverage and get started on them. So that I can keep working without damaging, hopefully not damaging any of these guys. Seems a little silly that I would have his coat and his hat be the exact same now that I think about it, but there are ways to remedy this, so I'll do that. So because I used to worry the paper, that's why I like to put down the color really solid and thick here so that I won't feel the need to just add a bit of a shadow or add something else. You get solid color so that when I do work up like a shadow or something, we'll get that little bit of texture. But I'm not going to be damaging the paper if I feel the need to go in. And it will dry faster, so if I go in, it's not going to do that bubbly color wash situation. I'm sure at some point one of these gnomes will need that color wash, that kind of like big, you've all seen it happen where like even like on fresco it imitates it a little bit, where you have like a big blob of water. Okay, I'll let you know. Okay. and you put some watercolor into it, and then it just kind of, they bleed into one another, creating a really cool effect if it's what you want. It's kind of a mess if it's not what you want. But my brush is splitting a bit there. But I'm sure there's a gnome that will take advantage of that. We just don't have any big spaces just yet. Maybe on the daisy gnome. Maybe we can do that there. That could be a lot of fun, actually. Okay. So not a lot on this one. He's going to be pretty white. So we've got the start of our snowy gnome. Start of our snowy gnome. Check it. Okay. Now we're going to go to the daisy gnome. It's a lot of jumping. Okay, he's pretty, not super dry yet, but dry enough that I'm not going to make too much of a mess doing this right now. She said out loud, jinxing everything. Now, I do like the idea of doing a big wash here. So here's a scenario where I'm not really 1000% sold on the shape of the daisy. I'm not certain the petals are really what I want. I didn't even count how many are actually on a daisy, so I probably goofed that quite a bit because I think there's like 6 or 8, not however many are here. So we'll see what happens with the flower, whether I redraw it, and that's where kind of like the fresco comes into play, where I can kind of take a flower that works somewhere else or redraw one and have it mash in together. We have lots of options, but this is a cute flower, so I think we'll still go with it. It may not be a daisy specifically, but it's a cute flower, and that's really what I'm going for. Now, if I want to do, I think a wash on the hat's actually a really cool idea. So I want to get some colors sorted out. So what I'm thinking, I see it in my head, but I don't see colors that are real. Like, I think like what I'm picturing in my head is like 80,000 colors, and we just don't have the space for something like that. Okay, so something like this, and then something like kind of like our other one, our purple. I want a bit of a green. Maybe this will work. Okay. Okay, so we have a bit of a yellow, purple, green situation happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to really clean my brush. I have cold water in here. That's a big thing. If you're doing watercolor or any sort of painting, please do not use hot water, because all these little bristles in your brush are being held in by glue. And if the glue gets too hot, some of your bristles are going to fall out and they are going to get all over your piece. So cold water. So I've really rinsed out my brush so that there's not a lot of color on here. It probably wouldn't matter too much because I just mixed those 3 colors, but we're just going to get, I'm not a pile of water, I'm not puddles of water, but I'm just going to put it down in this space a little bit more. I don't want it to dry by the time I'm done, but I just want to outline where the hat is and where I want the paint to go. I don't want to go too far. I also want to make sure everything's covered, because this effect will be difficult to recreate in a different location. Just get a little bit more here. Okay, so this is where the puddling water comes in. So let's hope this works for us all. Okay, so water in the yellow. Not quite as dark as I'd like. Didn't quite go to the edge, but I can force it to the edge right now. And we'll do some purple over here. This doesn't come out really light, so I think I just don't have enough paint here. So let's make some more. The best part about like doing like this is that because it's really wet, I have time to be adding extra bits. That's a little bit more better. I have that time to be adding more, whereas if I was doing less water like the previous one, we wouldn't be as successful. There we go. Oh my gosh. This is what I was picturing in my head. How did that happen? This never happens. I just want to be careful. I'm kind of like really washing off my brush because like you can see the purple's kind of coming through into the yellow. I don't want that. I want to make sure that it stays on its side of the paper. Okay. And then we'll rinse. More yellow in here. Here we go. This was actually just a flat color, right? Okay. The nice thing about watercolor too is that like if you're throwing color down like this, if you did pick up with like paper towel or anything, you can clear out some of these blobs. Like you can see them kind of disappearing when I have the brush over them. But you could pull them all up with paper towel if you wanted. So I do like to get my hands dirty when I have the watercolor happening. Usually I get my hands in it. I haven't done that in a while, but I've done that before. Sorry, quick. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to make sure all was good. Okay, so that's extremely soggy right now, so I'm going to leave it alone until it dries out a little bit. Because I just don't want to make a mess. Now, what do I want to do? I like the purple and green situation, so maybe we'll do kind of a wash situation down here as well on their shirt. Everybody's so quiet tonight. Glad everybody's tuning in though. Thank you so much. All right, so maybe we'll forego the yellow, but we'll get some of this green going. See where we can go from here. This was mostly in here, right? Oh, too green, too green. Ah, okay. Pull back. Oy, oy, oy. Here. Maybe a little bit more yellow. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do what I told you could do. Watercolor, paper towel. Soak it up a little bit there. It's still pretty wet, so we're still going to get that wash effect that we're hoping for. But it's soaked up all that ink because it was starting to get a little crazy for me. So it wasn't the right colors, and I didn't want them to dry there because there's a lot of paint. And I didn't want that saturation to stay on the paper because that's harder to remove. Once it's dry, it's hard to work around some of those. So fun. This looks great, by the way. Thanks, Alessandra. Oh, Dari's here now. Hey, everyone. So I'm so late. That's okay. You get to see all the colorized gnomes. You don't have to wait like everybody else did. Slowly building up some seasonal gnomes here. Oh, dear. stop paying attention. Pull that out a little bit. Okay, that's a super wet watercolor page. So we are going to definitely move those guys to the side, see what we can do with those later. Okay, we're gonna go back to our rainy day guy here. What time is it? Oh my goodness, 20 minutes left. What the heck? What the heck? Okay. Still have everybody on the Instagram, thank goodness. So what I want to do here now is, time did fly by today. When you're working in this traditional stuff, man, it's easy to get sucked in. 1 second. I don't think that's gonna do anything for me. Okay. I'm trying to get past my, I want to use up this little bit of paint that's in here, but I'm just gonna make a mess. So we're just gonna move on. Okay, so now I'm just gonna use just some of this kind of just off because we're gonna put some shadows in. I'm not gonna do too much of mixing right now. Again, I just want to throw the shadows in, but I have to think of a light source. Sure, we'll just do this. Another thing about the digital process after is going to be, I can take out some of these pencil lines where I'm not 100% sure if they want to stay. I like keeping my sketch lines because I think that it adds a lot of character to the piece, but there's also a couple that are like just faulted ones and they're just not helping the piece. Sometimes they get in the way, so I'll be getting rid of some of those, but some of them will definitely stay. Yes, we are working in watercolor today. So this has all been watercolor for now. Then we're going to probably put in some pencil crayon, maybe some ink, and then we're going to move into fresco for those final delicious touches before I get them printed into something fabulous. I haven't painted with watercolor in so long. It's funny, I didn't for a while either because I just did get so impatient with it because you have to wait for it to dry. You have to wait for the process. But also in like high school, when you're learning watercolor, you're learning on such a big pieces. But since I've been able to kind of learn it, do it this way, where it can be kind of a quick medium, a quick way to get color down, because I don't use those big washes. It's been really nice because I do like the soft kind of effect. Like that's why I did the self-portrait in the watercolor from Fresco, because it's just that nice soft color, and I really do like that, especially when in comparison to working with like the really bold stained glass paper patterns. I would like to kind of balance out with that kind of subtle watercolor softness kind of, and there's a lot of character in watercolor, I find, especially when you have a really nice textured toothy paper. I'm that weird person who's looking for that really gritty paper. So if it just kind of, everything kind of comes out one of a kind a little bit more than they would otherwise. I have glitter watercolor too. I have some in a tube as well, watercolor pencils, so many versions. Yes, I agree. That's why I use a blow dryer. Got no time to wait for it to dry. I understand that. It's especially when you're doing a big wash. That's why, like I said, I've been working on all these pieces simultaneously. So if I have something that I can kind of work on here, like when I was doing the house last year, that piece, at the end of last year, I just would do something else, like, because I obviously didn't want to ruin it. It was a commission piece and I didn't want to wreck it, so I would work on it and then like walk away, put the paintbrush down and walk away, so I didn't ruin it for the owner of the piece. But I have watercolor pencils as well. I do like that it's a portable medium. I do have a thing here. I can't I was looking for it the other day. It's somewhere. My studio needs to be gutted in a bad way. But it's very overwhelming, so I'm gutting everything else first. But I have a watercolor carry set, and it folds open, and there's the little cakes like this inside of it, and a little water bottle so that you have water on you, and like a couple caps where you can put the water in. I would use those with the watercolor brushes, like the ones that have the water in them. Those ones I would use all the time when I was in school because it's wicked portable. It sounds not portable because there's all the water and everything, but you can easily clean your brushes. Like if you picked up, if I just watercolored today, put this down when we were done and walked away, my brush wouldn't get wrecked. It wouldn't be great for it, but if you did that with acrylic, your brush is ruined. And I assume oil would be the same way. But here, like, it's just such a portable medium, so you always can clean up later. Oh no, a fight with the HP tech guy. So frustrating. Oh, la la la. Dealing with tech people. Well, I'm glad you were able to come over here and, chill out a little bit, Odari. It sucks dealing with tech humans. I gotta call my TV provider this week. I don't want to. It's to make me get all like persistent and stuff. Be like, no, I want a better deal. Why don't I automatically get the better deal as a loyal customer? Okay, then we'll put a little bit in here. So as you can see, watercolor is a bit of a slow build. And how you put down the paint too, like this all comes with practice. How you put it down gives you a different effect. Like you can obviously see like there's a bit of a harder line on the hat here. The line I just put down on the hat here, just like that little bit of shadow that I'm looking for. I put a lot of water in that one, so it's going to be lighter and have a bit of a softer edge. Learning all that all comes with practice. So finding out what the outcome will be, how much paint to put in any case. So it just all comes with practice. And that's why I also like working at on these smaller scale illustrations, because the pressure is off, but you can see how things react a little bit quicker than if you're doing a big piece. You wouldn't really know necessarily what made something work a certain way. Thanks, Otari. I was wondering if I didn't see a stream from you this week. I'm sorry that it's a computer thing. That super sucks. I've learned to water the paper, let it dry a bit, and then add paint. Have you tried that before? Let me see. I don't know if I've tried that before. We used to, when we were at school, we would stretch our watercolor paper. So you'd have your paper like this and then soak it, like you said. And then there's this tape that you can put down. It's like watercolor tape. And it also gets wet. It's almost like a wallpaper kind of thing. You get it all wet and then you put it down like on a board or something. And it would stretch the paper out. So when you're watercoloring it, it wouldn't wrinkle like when you're using a lot of water. So you can see there's kind of some divots in the hat here because the paper's wrinkling. I'm not too fussed about that. We can fix that later. It's probably going to dry pretty flat because this is a pretty hard paper. But if I had stretched it, which I hadn't thought about in a long time since you mentioned this, Alessandra, it wouldn't do that. It wouldn't pucker or anything. So you want to get these pools. I'm actually looking forward to these pools because I want to see what colors, how they dry and everything, and if I can leverage that for the pencil crayon and everything after. But I haven't done that in a long time. Thanks for reminding me. That's really good for if you are doing a big piece and using a lot of water, because like I said, you might not, like if you're doing a landscape, say, you don't really want things to be pooling in a weird way. You want kind of a little bit more realistic effect. Where here I'm like, let's just see what happens. When I first learned, I hated it. Yeah, humans have a tendency to be like something new, and they hate it. I learned that a lot at work. I work with a lot of new software and new changes at work, and people hate that. And I'm on the same board. I don't like change. I understand why people don't like it. But if I have a good reason as to why the change, I can maybe get on board. But yeah, if it, and sometimes it's not for you. Sometimes there's a style you're like, no, this isn't my thing, and then you'll find something else. Like I didn't think digital art was my thing, and then I found fresco, and it turns out digital art is my thing. Yeah, hopefully you get up and running soon, Odari. That's super frustrating when there's tech issues like that. So frustrating. Yeah, I had a few minutes on some of the mornings this weekend, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to actually get to watch some of the streams. And the tech said no. Silly tech. And then I got a notification for yours, Alessandra, and it was like, Alessandra was live streaming 2 hours ago. Thanks, guys. Now, I'm not getting too wicked worked up about these for accuracy. Like I said, we're going to get to a point where we can get into details and stuff. Also really cool, that blue was super dry in that palette. So you can revive colors. It won't, for watercolor, like you can revive them. It won't be as saturated as you had before, because you have to use quite a bit of water to make it come alive again. But as you can see, for this puddle we have here, because he's a soggy guy, it's working perfectly. Oh, Alessandra did a traditional stream too yesterday. She was coloring some of her animals. Nuts. I do love a traditional. It's really satisfying to watch people color. That's why I always like to watch the reels. I'm like, I should be doing that. I just have to keep remembering to film when I'm doing that so I can post it. Oh, look how fun this guy is coming together. Look at him go. Okay, let's do the green first. So fun. Awesome. Kristen just jumped off. Thank you for tuning in, Kristen, if you're checking in again later. Look at him go. Look how fun. This is a thing too, is like I find there's a lot of character in the watercolor. So it gives him a lot more movement than just kind of like the poor little guy when I was just sketching him. Now he's got some colors. So there's just lots of life in the watercolor, which I really like. He looks awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Odari. Alessandra said I did penguins and puffy fish. I'll send you a picture if I remember. Definitely, that'd be so much fun. Puffy fish, good call. Look how much fun, especially because he's a rainy day gnome. So funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we just have a few minutes left, so we'll just kind of, these are pretty basic in their stages right now. Oh gosh, I'll figure out my lefts and rights at some point. So I'll probably be back with these guys next week. If I have some time this weekend, like I said, I'm going to try and get some stuff posted in the next little while. So I'm hoping this weekend is going to be a Behance update situation. So we'll do a lot more of these next week, I think. Sandra says my partner doesn't like gnomes. So that was a thing in my house too. When they're like, ugh, gnomes. Like, I don't like a garden gnome. They would just, for a while, just kind of like not be a thing. But then there's this pattern designer in the knitting world who does these gnomes. And I was like, oh, they're super cute. They look fiddly, though. I'm not sure if I would do them. But then a friend of mine and my friend of mine was going to do a year of gnomes. So it was like one every month. I'm like, you know what? That seems reasonable. I'll give it a try. And like, I became obsessed, and so did everybody else. So I haven't been able to stop. This is one of the little guys. Look at his cute little face. Check it. Oh, lefts and rights are hard. So my house is full of these now for the gram. They're everywhere. It's crazy. So everybody's been asking for those. And then I drew a little bit of an illustration. I did those illustrations last year. I thought, oh, I'll just try drawing a gnome. And they blew up. So I think it's just kind of the style of the gnome. Sometimes I'm not a fan, but only allowed to have gnome napkins. That's it. Sheesh. Well, you got to get some other prints. I'll hook you up. But yeah, I think it's a style of gnome. Like, these guys have lots of character and lots of fun, so I'm enjoying this. And they're not like, some of them are like really creepy with their faces and stuff. These ones don't really have faces, so they look cuddly and cute and stuff. So yes, I will be back next week, probably doing some more of these guys. I might try, like I was saying about the Behance updates, I'm trying to update all my Behance projects, get caught up on that. If I have some time in between those updates, I might make a little bit of progress here. Maybe we can do some pencil crayon next week. I don't know. But we'll definitely be back with gnomes next week. We'll work on these for a little bit more, make a little bit more progress, and get that going. One quick thing, if you are not signed up for my newsletter, my first one is coming out on Monday. I'm telling the world so that I will actually do it. That's going to be the first of my update. I started a newsletter this year so that I can get everything into one place. I have so much with markets, with art pieces, with live streams, with blog posts, with everything going on. I want to just make sure that I have everything in one place for people to stay up to date and caught up on. I'm also going to have a couple shop updates where newsletter subscribers get early access. So that's exciting things, especially for what I have planned for Christmas this year. So definitely keep an eye out on those things. So if you want to sign up for that, you can go to my website for my store. It's hues-tones.square.site. You can go there and right near the top, you can sign up for the newsletter. Just throw your email address in there and I will send you no more than 12. If I even get all 12, I'm going to be floored. But no more than 12 updates this year, just to let you know where I'm at, where you can find my work, and what new exciting things are coming. I have markets, I have collaborations, I have all kinds of pieces coming out this year. So it's just really, really busy year, and I don't want anybody to miss out. But for now, I'm going to leave you all to the rest of your evening. Thank you for tuning in. I'm stoked about how this little guy's coming in. And I'm very excited to get some more layers on these guys. So I think we're probably going to be doing a little bit more traditional again next week. Lots of fun, bright colors. Ardari, I hope your streaming stuff gets fixed because I'd like to tune in soon, but don't stress yourself out either. Just find a middle ground if you can. And I hope you all have a fabulous week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're in Ontario, drive safely, please. And I'll catch you all the same time next week. Bye, guys.